Hello, welcome to Indigosprites. Today's video is about how to get a needle cross stitch. I've cross stitched a fair bit during my crafting life and always felt quite frustrated that I can watch YouTube videos and see the most incredibly neat cross stitches that podcasters produce, but how this is done has always eluded me a little. And there doesn't seem that much information out there on the internet. So I thought I'd do a video with the techniques that I know of, I'm sure there are many more, that could help you produce a neater cross stitch. Very much depends on your tension, the sort of material you use, and really the technique you use, as in do you do one cross stitch at a time, or do you sometimes run along with one arm in a row, one arm of the cross stitch in a row, and then come back the other way. It all has an impact on the neatness of your cross stitch. I personally do my cross stitches one at a time, so that's what I'll be showing you today. I've threaded my needle with two strands of anchor stranded cotton. Generally I use DMC, but this was just a spare one I had. I'm going to do my stitches double the size so that hopefully it'll make it a little bit easier for you to see on camera. And I usually come up bottom left, go down bottom right, come up bottom right, go down bottom left, and making sure the top arm of my cross stitch is always facing in the same direction as all the others. Otherwise that in itself can make your stitching look a bit messy. So today I'm going to show you three techniques. The first one is railroading. The second one is reverse needle. I'm not sure if that's what it's the technical term for it, it's what I call it. And the third one I stumbled across quite recently. I call it upper versus lower thread, and you'll see why when I get to it. So first of all, railroading. So I've brought my stranded cotton up bottom left, and I'm doing double the size, so I go down top right. And with railroading, some people do railroading on the bottom arm of a cross stitch and the top arm, and some people only do it on the top arm, as most people believe that it's only the top arm that will be noticeable. But I'll show you the bottom arm and the top arm. So before you put your needle into this top right, then you would put your needle in between. This is why I don't use it, I find it a little bit too fiddly for my liking. In between the two pieces of stranded cotton on your needle, and then go down top right. So there we are. And putting the needle in between the two strands makes it lie flat. Sometimes it can look as though it's slightly lumpy or a bit twisted. So then I would come down bottom right to complete the cross stitch, and then I would do the same thing, put my needle in between the two strands of cotton and go down top left, and that makes the stranded cotton sit nice and flat. No lumpy looking bits there. So I'll do another one. I'll miss a stitch and do another one so to separate them. So bottom left I come up, separate the two strands of cotton with my needle, and go down top right. Come up bottom right, separate the strands with my needle, so my needle is sitting in between, The light is very, very changeable today here. The weather is all over the place. Not long after Hurricane Freya. And you go down top left with your needle between the two strands, and you get nice, neat looking cross stitch. So that is the railroad technique. The next technique I will show you is called I call it reverse needle technique. Now I find this one does work fairly well for me personally. Some people don't like it, they think it frays the thread, but I haven't had that problem. So anyway, again, starting bottom left, bring your needle through the fabric and go down. Just make sure I'm doing the right bit because I'm doing this double the size, and go down without separating your strands like you did in the previous technique. You go down and when you come back up with the eye of your needle. Oops. So bottom right, you come up with the eye of your needle. You see, don't know if you can see that, but that's the eye of the needle with the thread in. Pull through, go down top left, and that sits nice and neatly as well. So do another one. So with the eye of the needle, you don't twist your needle around underneath your fabric and come up with the sharp end or the opposite end to the eye of the needle. You just push up the eye of the needle through the fabric, go down top right, and then push up the eye of the needle without twisting the needle. Because the only thing I found with this, it does work out neat, but it's not as easy to find the hole that you want with the eye of the needle. Pull through and go down top left. I'll do that one more time. So coming through bottom left with the eye of the needle, go down top right without twisting the needle underneath. You come up with the eye of your needle bottom right. Only I can find it, there it is. And with the sharp end of the needle you go down, and with the eye end of the needle you push up from beneath. So, and again you have a line of very neat cross stitching. The only thing I found with this method, I do like it, but it's not so easy to find the hole you want with the eye of your needle as it is with the sharp. But for the small amount of difficulty in that aspect, I still actually quite like the technique. But I do find occasionally, if you're a seasoned cross stitcher, you know that you have to let your thread drop and your needle unwind every so often if you don't use any other particular technique. I find you still have to do that occasionally with the reverse needle technique, but not nearly so often as if you weren't just doing straightforward bottom arm one way, top arm the other. So that's the reverse needle technique, and the last one is the upper versus, I've called it at the moment, upper versus lower thread to needle method, which is a mouthful, but I'll come up with another one unless someone else has got one. So, I'm not doing reverse needle anymore, so this is doing, so the sharp end of your needle will come up through the fabric, bottom left. And before I place it top right, there, can you see the main part of my thread is running underneath where I brought up the thread to where I'm going down with the needle. So it's this side rather than this side, the top side. If it's this side, personally, my stitches can look slightly droopy. So I come up bottom right, and again I want to go down top left for my top arm of the cross stitch, but again notice that the thread is sitting on the lower part of your work. Now I think because I'm doing double the size cross stitches for camera, all of this is actually looking quite neat, but trust me, again the thread is on the bottom, towards the bottom of your work, coming up bottom right, going down bottom left, but notice the thread is on the bottom of my work. Now I don't know if the camera will pick that up, but there is a slight leaning towards the bottom on the top arm there, but in an ordinary size cross stitch I believe that is because I'm doing double the size cross stitching rather than I'm going over two squares instead of 4 squares, sorry, instead of 2. But there is the top arm can have a slight droop downwards when you do it that way. So the way I'm going to show you now is just reverse it. So come up bottom left, and instead of having the thread on the bottom facing towards the bottom of your work before you go top right, or whatever direction is your preferred method, just with your needle push the thread up, and then you can go down bottom right. And come up. Have I gone down one too many? Excuse me please. So you've come up bottom left, and before you go top right, push the thread up towards the top of your work with your needle, just the bit you're working on, and go down bottom right. I'll show you that again. So at the moment all the thread is on the bottom of your work. So before I go down top right, I'll push the thread with the tip of my needle up towards the top of my work and go down bottom right. And this I have found to be the neatest of all. So coming up bottom right, and before I go down top left, I push the thread, the needle literally goes under the thread, like so. So it's sitting on top of my needle, and go down top left. So you come up bottom right to do the next stitch, and remember, push your thread up towards the top of your work with your needle as you go down bottom right, top right, sorry. Then come up bottom right, push your thread with your needle up towards the top of your work as you go down top left. Now you may decide that your stitches you like reverse, so you might want to come up bottom right, go down top left, come up bottom left, go down top right. It doesn't matter. Now another way to avoid what I call the slight droop on cross stitching, this is my favourite method and the one that I use all the time, the one I've just showed you, the upper versus lower thread to needle technique. And always push your thread up towards the top, otherwise your stitches can have a slight droop to them, which probably only you would notice. But when you're doing something like crafts and cross stitching in particular, I find we all get a bit pedantic about wanting the absolute best looking product at the end of it, don't we? Who doesn't? It's important to enjoy the process as well, so just all you new cross stitchers out there, just have fun making the stitches and producing a pretty picture or pattern at the end of it. But those of you who perhaps are more seasoned cross stitchers and would like the very best looking work at the end of it, then try these different techniques and you choose the best one for you. Now another way of not getting that slight droop on your stitches, I personally don't use a hoop. I've tried with and without hoops, and I find I'm better without hoops. And some people have suggested that my stitching would be neater if I used a hoop. I have actually tried using hoops, and I honestly can't say that I've noticed much difference in the neatness of my work. The only thing I have found, I'm quite good at getting the right tension I need when I cross stitch, but the only thing I have found is that with the hoops, I just find it annoying when you have to try and get the memory creases of the hoop out of your work, or sometimes the hoop can actually end up making your work look messy if it has to be put over an area where you've already stitched. So, and I don't like big frames or hoops, I find them too cumbersome. So, and I'm more than happy with using one of these techniques to get the neatest cross stitch I can. Now another way, I'll do one more of the upper versus lower thread. So I'm coming up, bottom left, pushing my thread up towards the top with the tip of my needle as I go down top right. Coming up bottom right, it's just started raining here, and push the thread up with my needle as I go down bottom left, top left, sorry. So nice neat stitching. Now another way of doing that technique, if you don't like the idea of pushing your thread out the way or remembering to, is actually reverse it, and it seems to make it just as neat. So come up top right, go down bottom left, and you don't have to worry whereabouts your thread is. Come up top left, go down, your thread is almost naturally on that final arm of the cross stitch. Oops, went into the wrong arm. Reverse that before anyone notices, and go down top right. Then you would come up top right, go down bottom left, come up top left, go down bottom right. Now I got into a rhythm with going bottom left to top right, then bottom right to top left, and my cross stitch just doesn't feel right unless I do that particular technique. So I'm not a great fan of the reversing. The reversing automatically seems to make your cross stitching lay flat. And as you can see, all of those techniques actually improve the look of your cross stitching. Now, I know there's a couple of others. One off the top of my head I can think of is to use a laying tool, which I know some people do use, which is a tool that seems to sit underneath the stitches as you're making them, to help them lay more flat. Haven't tried that method personally, but it sounds like might be a little bit awkward. But I could be wrong. I'll have to try it and get back to you and see if I think it's another technique worth giving a try. But they're the 3 techniques. Well, in fact there was 4, because I showed you the reverse one as well just now. They're the techniques that I have found can neaten the appearance of your cross stitches, sorry. Well, all I can say is I hope this has helped, and enjoy your craft, enjoy your hobby. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you have enjoyed watching this video, and that way you'll get notifications of when further videos are coming out. So thanks for joining me, and bye for now.